The combining terms, which, can be very tricky, and, it does give people difficulty. So I'm starting with the first one where, again, it's just, this is making sure that you understand what order to do it, and that you're careful with your signs. I'm taking this away from that. So this has to go first. You are taking 5x squared plus 4x plus 3, and you are subtracting. Now, this is very important. You are subtracting something that has 3 terms. Boom, 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 right? Terms are separated by pluses or minuses. So you are subtracting an entire quantity. You have to subtract this, and subtract this. You are not just taking away the first thing. Now, the signs are going to switch. Subtraction, right? Subtraction is taking away. But this is a -7. If you subtract a -7, that's like adding, right? Because a negative and a negative make a positive. So basically, switch all those signs there. It's very simple, right? Distribute the -1. The positive one's going to switch to negative. But this is what people fail to do. They fail to make this plus 7x. And then this minus and this minus, right? You're taking away a -3. If you're taking away a -3, you're adding 3. Now, just, put together the ones that look the same. I have colors. You have the x squared thingies. You have 5x squared. You lose 6x squared. You lost 1x squared. And I am going to write that 1 there. Do you have to do that? No, you don't. Then you have 4x's and 7x's. That's 11x's, right? Just add 4 and 7. Don't change them. It's 11x squared. Just remember the apple and the apple and the apple squared thing. An apple plus an apple. I see it all the time, man. I see an apple and they're like an apple squared. First of all, an apple and an apple would be 2 apples squared if that was the rule, right? I mean, how the fuck do you have an apple and you have just one of a new thing? That would be 2 apples, right? The thing does not change when you add and subtract. All right. So then, the last part's pretty easy. You have $3. I give you $3. You have $6. Don't do anything dumbass and try to combine those all. I see students take these 3 separate things and go add them all up into one thing, which is ridiculous. They're different creatures, right? Dogs, cats, dollars, or whatever. Apples, bananas, dollars. You can't combine them into a single thing. They aren't. All right. Now, this is the one that really screwed up a lot of people. Number 2. First of all, this is a Z. This is a 2. They look very similar. I put the line there to make my Z stand out from the number 2. Some people gave me crap and don't like the way I write the Z. Tough shit. That's how I write my Z, and that just happens to be the letter I picked, so who cares? All right, now, here, to be very careful with this, you have to do distributing, right? You have to hop the fence, and you have to say hello to everybody in the party, even if you hate them. Z times Z, Z squared. Z times -3, -3Z. You're multiplying each of these 2 by a Z. That's how you get this. A lot of people had trouble with this. -Z times Z is -Z squared. And then again, you're going to multiply -Z times a +4. That gives you -4Z. So you took each of these and times them by a -Z. Now, you have a Z squared. I take a Z squared. Goodbye. You had 1. I took 1. You have none. I mean, if you want to write 0 Z squareds, you can, but that's kind of silly. So you have -3Z, -4Z, -9Z. They all have the same sign, so you add them. 3 and 4 makes 7. 7 and 9 makes 16. 16 what? 16 zebras. -16. Right? You add the numbers, you keep the sign. This is the reason we did the sign rules. Before we do the combining rules, you cannot do this without the sign stuff. You can't do this without the exponent stuff. Look, the exponent stuff is right there. Z and Z make Z squared. It all comes together when you do this. And if you can't do this, you have to be able to do the stuff that comes after it. I'm going to do a few more. Okay, I don't know how much room it's going to take, so I didn't want to try to do another one underneath it. So it starts to get more complicated. I mean, these do get trickier because you have a lot to keep track of. There's no way to subtract this. And even if you could, these are not the same, right? This is not a squared b. What you have to do is pretend that this isn't there. Pretend that's not there. And you have to distribute here. You have to go -3. Now put a 1 there. -3 times 1 is -3. A times A is A squared. What about the B? Goes along for the right. this b is being multiplied by this whole thing. So you can't ditch it. It's there. It has to go along for the ride. Now you have -3 times -2. Take your time with these. What if you struggle with this? One thing at a time. Multiply the numbers first. This a times 1 is a. This b squared has to go along for the ride. Right? This is your distributing. You have to do that. You put this back. And you got to hope that you have things that look the same. And of course you do. I mean, it's designed that way. There's my different number 2s again. So let's see. Oh, perfect. A squared b. And then I have ab squared and ab squared. So just keep those letters. Remember, you're adding and subtracting now. Multiplication is over. Multiplying alters the powers. Adding and subtracting, you are just counting how many of this thing you have. You had 5 of this A to B thing. You had 5 of them, you lose 3 of the same. That leaves you 2 of that creature, the A to B creature. You had 6 of that thing, you lose 7 of that thing. You lost 1 of that AB2 thing. Okay, I probably could have fit it all in there. All right, so again, multiply very carefully. Exponent rules, sign number rules, it's all combined here. So you have to, again, just take your time with it, do it carefully. Okay, number 7 has a lot going on in it. So again, all the multiplications have to be done first, right? And that fits with the idea that we learned with the order of operation. Multiplying beats adding and subtracting, right? None of the rules that we're using contradict the earlier rules. You have to multiply or divide before you add and subtract, right? This is subtraction, subtraction, addition, but you must multiply. Here's the multiplication, right? So you're going to keep the 7y2 there. You're going to multiply -y times +y. Y times y is y squared. Never forget this. Now over here, you have to be careful. You have a negative times a negative that's going to be positive. 3y. That's what you get when you multiply the number 3 and the letter y together. You get 3 y's. Now, this goes along for the ride. That goes along for the ride. Here, you're going to multiply a +2 times +3. That's +6. The y goes along for the ride. You had 3 yams. I doubled it. Now you have 6 yams. And then you're going to do 2 times 1 is 2. Now, again, a lot of crap to keep track of. I told you my advice would be to circle all of the things that look the same or use colors. I happen to have colors. I'm going to cross them out after I combine them. You had 7 y squared. You lose 1. Put a 1 there if it helps you. Right? Put the 1. Now it looks worse. Now I got to fix it. -1. 7 take away 1, take away 5. Right? 7, so that's 7 minus 6. That gives you 1 y squared. If you don't want to write the 1, don't write the 1. You don't have to. Now, I like to cross out the ones that I have used when I combine. I hope I put the right color cap on. So now I'm going to do the y's. Circle them all. You can rearrange them. You can put them all together. I mean, heck, if you want to do this on the side, you have 3y plus 6y, take away 9y. I love what happens here. 3 yams and 9 yams. I don't know what the hell else y is. That's 9 yams, not 9 yams squared. These make 9. You lose 9. You have 9 y's. You lose 9 y's. You have no y's. They cross out. They're gone. So cross them out. They go away. And what are you left with? $2. Everything else is gone. This is why you cross stuff out. When there's a lot of terms like that, it's very easy to lose them. It's very easy to double count them. It's easy to miss them. So it helps to cross them out as you have combined them. This is it. It's just because look, gone. He's still there. Boop. And I didn't miss him. And I didn't miss any in the middle because I was crossing them out as I combined them together. Use something, circle them, put little boxes, put little triangles, something to help you identify who goes together. Or you can just rearrange them. I could have wrote this one over here. I could have took this one and moved it next to those two. I mean, there's a lot of ways to help minimize the confusion on these. So whatever helps you, what helps one person isn't going to help another person. Not everybody needs to do that. All right, so you find what works for you. All right, so on the same sheet, I had to evaluate going along with the combine. You know, the combine, like I said, at some point it gets repetitive. You multiply, right? You distribute, you collect the like things. It's the same thing over and over again. So this was the different topic where all you did is replace the letters with numbers. And what I said to you is everything stays the same. You cannot change anything. All you're doing is taking that letter and putting a number where it was. So now stare at what I wrote there. All I did is replace the B with a blank parentheses, and I replaced the C with a blank parentheses. You can even do that. And then in the next step, put the number there. I mean, I'm not going to do that, but you can certainly do that, right? So first thing, you rewrite everything the same. The negative stays, the power 2 stays, the positive 3 stays, the squared stays. All I'm doing is taking B and putting a 5 where it was, and I'm putting a negative 2 where the C was. Now, this has screwed up so many people over and over and over again. And I keep telling you, this and this are not the same. Here, the negative is being done to the second power, it's being squared. So negative times a negative would be a positive. That is not what this means. You are doing the power first, 5 times 5, then hitting it with that minus. So you get a negative 25. Now here, you cannot multiply. You cannot hop the fence with the power on. You got to shut the power off. So you're going to do negative. Now see, look, here, you see that difference. This negative, not in there. This negative is in there. So you have to do negative 2 times negative 2, which is positive 4. And then 3 times 4 is 12. And then again, right back to this. Oh, this is all the same, that day one crap with the side numbers and auto operation. Same thing. Different signs. Now you're adding and subtracting. You're down to the end. Subtract these. The difference between 25 and 12 is 13, right? Just minus them. Keep the sign at a large number. You owe me 25. You pay me 12. You still owe me 13, right? Just plug in. Be very careful. Tons of ways you can screw this up. People screw up here. They put a minus 4 there. They do 3 times 2. Here they put a positive 25. There's so many mistakes that can be made if you're not careful, if you don't take your time. All right, so now here again, I'm going to take every single letter. Everything stays the same. I'm not changing anything, but where the letters were, I put those parentheses. I don't need parentheses here. There anyway. So wherever you see D, you put the number 6. There's 6. There's another D. Now, wherever the B is, I'm going to put 5. And where the A is, I'm going to put a negative 2. Right? All I did, replace the letters with the numbers. Now, 3 times 6 is 18. Negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. I mean, this is very simple. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. And over there, you're just adding 6. And again, as long as you watch your sign, I mean, you're not going to get 18 minus 10 wrong, I hope. All right, so you get 8 there. You owe me 10, you pay me 6. I still am seeing people screw this up. People screw it up all the time. You owe me, if you think money, you are less likely to make that mistake. If you owe me 10 and you pay me 6, you owe me 4. I have to make this divide. I rig these questions. I design them. These don't come out of books. I make them up myself. I make sure these numbers divide. I don't want 8 divided by 5 or 8 divided by 3. You don't have a calculator. You have to be able to do the division. 8 positive divided by a negative is negative, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. I mean, it's that simple. Right? Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. My bonus problem. I'm doing this one because 1, I like it, and 2, I know for a fact I had this question on an exam, but I will put this on the exam because it really shows me if you understand how to do all the signs and doing it in the correct order. Now, you're going to replace C with negative 4. You have to be very, very careful here. You're going to replace A with negative 2. There's a lot going on here. Just there's a lot going on. Again, you're going to replace C with negative 4, and you're going to replace A with negative 2. All I did is now I was very careful about it. I'm very, very careful. I always put parentheses when I plug in. Now I can drop this parentheses. So I'm just going to write negative 4. This negative, you are subtracting negative 2, right? A minus and minus make a plus. Here, same thing. I'm going to drop those parentheses. Now, you're adding negative 2. That's subtraction, right? I mean, if I'm giving you $2 of debt, if I just say, you owe me $2, you owe me $2. So if you ever see this situation, just put a minus there. All right, there's no such thing as adding a negative, it's subtracting. Adding a negative means subtracting. Now, you can see a lot of sign stuff going on here. You screw up those sign rules, you're going to have a fit with this. You owe me 4, you pay me 2. Subtract the numbers, keep the larger sign, right? The difference between 4 and 2 is 2, right? Subtracting. keep the larger sign. Here, they're the same sign. So you add the numbers and you keep the sign. Very easy to screw this up. And then you do it in -2 times a -6. Negative times negative is positive. 6 times 2 is 12. So such a simple looking little baby problem. And it can be very, very complicated and ridiculously easy to screw up. You screw up either one of these numbers and then the whole thing is wrong. You have to be very careful when you do that one. All right. So look, I didn't do a ridiculous amount of combining terms. I have another video doing the same thing over and over and over again. It gets repetitive. Multiply carefully. Combine the things that have the same letters and powers, right? I mean, on the other sheet here, a little bonus. I had this question on the other sheet. Oh, this was a 4. Now, they both have MP, but this is M2, this is M4. This is P4, this is P2. They're not the same. If you're trying to count, like I said in class, if you had 7 apples and 3 bananas, you have 10 what? But, if you're going to combine that into a single same thing, 7 dogs and 3 cats is not 10 dogs. It's not 10 cats either. These don't go together, right? So we said in class, there you have to put no. You can't do it. I mean, you can write BS if you want. So, unless the letters and powers are exactly the same, you cannot add them. But when you do add them, if those powers were the same, if this had been M2, P4, you had 3 of the M. See, now they are exactly the same. You add the numbers in the front, but the mistake that I see people make is that they change these. They write M4, P8 or something. It doesn't work that way. If you had 7 dogs and, 3 dogs, that's 10 dogs. That's not 10 of some weird other different 10 dragons. It's not a different animal. It's the same thing. You have to understand when you're adding or subtracting, you're just keeping track of how many of that thing you have. All right. So, again, just watch the ones I did if it's really that difficult, but it shouldn't be. This is the easy stuff. This is preliminary. This is basic algebra. Its class is going to get very advanced. So you have to be able to do all of this easy stuff before you can do the harder stuff. Right? This is the way it is. So as always, wish you luck.